And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to another stupendous. I might have used that adjective before. I need a thesaurus. Another lovely episode.
Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic episode of the best darn show on the internet, the Over Sharon show. How's it going, everybody? How you doing? We're back live on the internet. Oops. The Over Sharon show. And I really am slipping today. That's all right. It must be the heat. It's fried my brain. Anyway, good to be back.
Um,
We took sort of a break. We weren't here for 4th of July. And then before that, we were like, a little on and off with our stuff. But we're back in the flow, back in the swing in the middle of summer. It's the Summer of Over Sharon. I got possessed this morning when I was making up the title, and I'm excited about it. I don't know where that came from, but I think it's perfect. We're right in the dead middle of summer. 7-Eleven. What a great day, 7-Eleven. July. So, how are you, Sharon?
I'm well. It's it's been interesting.
Interesting summer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just lots just lots going on. Busy and traveling and stuff.
My favorite part about this summer is I have no idea what's going on. Like I see these memes and like I used to know, and I have no idea now. Like I can guess, but I have no like the Haktua or whatever, like that one that's like everywhere. I guess there's a girl that said it or something. You don't even have to say in the comments, everybody. I don't care. But I just think
I
it's hilarious that this year more than ever, it seems like every year I just get more out of touch with quote unquote mainstream reality.
I have
And
no idea what you're talking about.
yeah,
So,
good. Don't worry about it because it's a sexual nature graphic thing, I'm pretty sure.
oh, okay.
Yeah. It's like all over the memes. Hawk to it's like a spitting noise. I'm like, all right, guys, like this is 2024. Like those were like 2010 jokes, like spit on it, or like 2006, like that's all
I
right.
guess there's
Probably
nothing new
funny in
under
its
the
own way.
sun, and
Yes,
history repeats itself.
yes. And speaking of nothing new under the sun, history repeating itself, let's read today's quote, shall we?
Sure.
We shall. And today's quote was kind of a little last minute, but it's a very apropos and amazing. So I didn't make a slide, but here it is. Being positive in a negative situation is not naive. It's leadership. And that's by Ralph Marston. And April 13th, 2020. That's funny.
Where's that from? Oh, you just looked it up.
No, that's yeah. Well, when I looked it up, and I don't know if that's when he said it or but that's when they posted April 13th,
Wow,
2020.
that's funny.
Yeah, but I wonder what negative situation they were alluding to in April of 2020. I don't try. It was like 4 years ago. So hard to remember.
On like 311, not 711.
Yeah, exactly. 311. Exactly. All the numbers. I've been seeing like numbers insanity, sevens and twos. And it's funny because my born day is July 2nd. So but like 72, 72, like 27, 27, and just crazy stuff. So gotta love the numbers. And I love this quote too, because I feel like sometimes when you are being positive about things, people do take it in a negative way because, I mean, who knows why? I would imagine maybe they're taking it personally. They're like, how dare this person not feel this, whatever they're feeling. And, but the whole thing about leadership, it's so simple. This quote is so short and simple. And it's just like, no, being positive it's just being a leader. And it reminds me of the Bashar. No, it wasn't Bashar. It was this other
It was
guy
another dude
on Instagram.
that you sent me.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. I found him. He's bald and he wears a hat and glasses. I'll look it
I
up.
don't know, I don't think I'd ever seen him
I'll
before.
find him because I sent him to me. But he was talking about manifestation, and he's like, you could do all these mantras and all these things. He goes, but the quick
And that's fine.
it is, yeah. And he was like, there's nothing wrong with all that. He's like, or this, I say you could just even add it in because why, if something's working for you, stay with it. But this new idea that he brought in is so simple. And Elizabeth's been working on it today. It was great. Like she didn't say anything. She works from home, so she's having a rough day today, and she wasn't saying anything bad. She's like, you know what? I'm not going to say anything bad. I was like, all right, awesome. And anyway, what the guy said was, he's like, just don't let any negativity come out of your mouth as much as you can help it. I mean, if you could just start today and never have anything negative come out of your mouth, that's great. But if you have a plan, to not let negative things come out of your mouth, and if something does, just don't be too hard on yourself. Obviously, I just want to caveat that with that little bit of advice or whatever wisdom. But I
Yeah.
think that he really is onto something, because if you just can catch yourself every time you're being negative and stop and try to talk about something else, because there's always things we could be grateful for in a situation.
Absolutely. And I I really needed to hear that today or whatever day you sent it to me. Because today in these times that we're in, it's there's just a lot of stuff going on, right? And there's that huge tendency or desire to want to be negative and talk about the world ending and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like everything's going to shit. There he is, that guy.
Up
Up
Spiral Life
spiral.
is his. Here you go, everybody. Up
Up
Spiral Life
spiral dot life.
on Instagram. Check him out. He seems like a pretty cool
Yeah.
guy. I'm sorry to mean to cut
And
you
if
off.
you can send me that link, I can, or you can put it, I can put it in the chat or whatever. Um, and then I can put it in the description too. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit longer of a video. It's not like super short, but it was important to hear for me. I needed to hear that because there's just a constant bombardment of things that, and I grew up in a family that was very critical. So it's easy for me to jump right back into being critical and negative about things. So that spoke to me, especially in because the things that I've been going through that we've been speaking about last couple of shows, last few shows. Pardon me. My mom ending up in the hospital and me falling ill for a bit, and then the fridge going out, the fridge still not being available because of whatever reason. There is a delay on the shipment of that particular refrigerator from the manufacturer. So we continue to wait and live out of a small mini fridge, which actually is fine because what I'm trying to do is do a little bit more fasting. So it's not like I need a lot of food in the fridge. So, um, to me, like thinking about the silver lining about that and thinking this was like for such a time as this, right? Like I'm wanting to fast anyway, right? And I'm wanting to control that aspect, right? So if there's no huge fridge to store all these things, then there's no necessarily no desire for me to want to be eating
Yeah.
a lot, which is good because sometimes I would be like, well, there's food in the fridge and it has to get eaten or it's going to go bad. So it
That food
actually
guilt.
it actually works.
Yeah.
Um so I can't, I have to try to look at things in that way so that I don't spiral downward and get upset about a fridge being delayed. Um, so
Yeah, that could be super frustrating. I bet anybody listening to this could understand that. I mean, we take so many things for granted in this society, and
yes,
this is something that other people could be grateful for. Hey, if you're at home and you have a full size refrigerator that's running, is your refrigerator running? Then be grateful.
yes, because I have a mini fridge right now that I'm living out of, that Cody and I are living out of. So
And it sounds like it's perfect timing. I really feel like just trying to, whatever we perceive as things that go wrong, and then you try to
mhm.
see what it's telling you. And it is kind of a big benefit because now if you go shopping or whatever, you're not going to have,
Yeah, I
you know,
can't buy a lot. I really
exactly.
can't.
You're going to have to pass
Cody
up
was,
deals that you might normally be like, oh, I'll just freeze it, or whatever. But
yeah,
yeah,
can't, because Cody and I were at the store just to buy like real like basic things. And he's like, "Oh, look at this. Like, you know, we could freeze this or we can." I'm just like, "We don't have a fridge right now." He's like, "Oh
but we
yeah."
can't. I mean, you could
So,
always get like a freezer chest, whatever, and then wait till the fridge. But it doesn't seem like you guys really need it. So I mean,
yeah, not right now. So, it not only happened because like to me I have to think about it like it didn't just happen in the perfect time when we're trying to fast and like learning to develop those skills of like not dipping into the fridge whenever you're snacking when you're feeling snacky or whatever and um or even just to finish up food that you didn't finish eating or whatever. And not only that, but also it happened to teach me about this. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's not only perfect because I'm trying to fast, but it's perfect because it's teaching me a lesson, sort of thing.
it's multifaceted.
Yeah.
This
So,
this quote unquote bad thing that happened to you guys. Yeah, I've seen that's exactly what I've been trying to do in my life past couple weeks, especially, and I'm just really trying to embody these things, but it's funny how quick you could fall out and then you're just back into these patterns. And I notice it a lot when I'm driving. And I'm not being hard on myself by any means because I used to have really bad road rage. Now I just make fun of people and I'll do voices or whatever. I'm like, look, like it's my first day driving, everybody. Look at me, like so it's better, at least I'm turning it into humor and stuff. So, but it is funny though, because then I'll find myself going, well, you know what? Maybe I'm stuck behind this person that's doing 30 in a 50, and we're
so I can
about to
develop
merge
some
on an
patience.
interstate where it's going to be like set 65 and everyone's going to 80, but this guy's going like 35. I'm like, but maybe it's for a reason. Maybe I need to arrive at my destination right when I do. And this was yesterday. I was behind this guy. I was just like, anyway, and I was going to my parents' house, but I got there exactly the perfect time for what needed to happen, and it was a good day, and you
Yeah.
know, got to get
And
some.
also maybe it's for teaching you patience too.
Yes, patience.
I know it sounds weird, but I have noticed that when I'm not like in a rush or trying to like hurry somewhere, I haven't been experiencing like annoyances at like, oh, this person cut me off, or this person's getting in front of me, or this person's slow and I need to get around them. I've I've actually encountered like just easy situations and I can merge in and out and I can, pass people or not pass people, but I'm not like worried about it or I'm not annoyed by things. It's kind of funny. I was noticing that the other day. I'm like I'm not really rushing somewhere. I'm just kind of chilling and I'm not encountering any like traffic or anything.
It's funny
So,
how that happens because you're
could it
not
be?
worried about it, and I've noticed that also because I do have a lot of things where it'll go my way, or I'll be able to drive through an area where there's like a bunch of red lights, and it's like a downtown area, and it could take a while, and I'll just breeze right through it. And it does seem to happen when I'm not worried about it, but when I'm worried and I'm worried I'm going to be late, um, that's when it does seem that people will get my way or the lights turn red and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, and this is something I've been working on in the past couple of weeks pretty hard, just to focus, like you said, and I have noticed it. So, and I think I just have to figure out get better with time. I mean, everybody knows that knows me anyway, so it's not a.
Yeah.
But I've been better. I've been leaving myself a lot more time. I mean, today was a bad example, but I did have a little bit of a good excuse. My stomach was for some reason give me some issues. So but yeah, I mean, I think the key though, now we were, who was I talking about this with? But it's just about being easy on yourself and trying to. Oh, we were at the chiropractor yesterday. We go there every couple of weeks, and the guy, he's so dialed in. I think he's a Christian now, but I don't know what kind of Christian because like his dog, one of his dogs' name is Gaia, and he was
Well,
talking.
you said that he used to be new agey, right?
Yeah, I think he used to be more new agey, but he's still open to it. I think he just said that the thing with Christianity is he just feels it better. Like that's what makes him feel alive. And I'm like, go for it then, dude. Like whatever. But we were talking about this, and there was another lady in there too, just being easy on herself. And I was saying how we have these voices, this voice in our head that from when we grow up. And the lady that was there, this black lady, was like, yeah, she's like exactly right. And I'm like, and that's the real battle. It's just that little voice in our head, and it's cool that to be around people that are into this stuff. Even in real
Yeah.
life, especially, is nice. But
You know what? We never pulled a tarot card.
we never did pull a tarot card.
Do you want to do
So
it or do you
it's
want me to do it?
155 in 55 seconds. Sure. I grabbed my tarot card right at 1555 in my deck. I'll use the Lord of the Rings one.
Sweet.
Why not? It's a popular deck here in the Over Sharon show. And I did pull, I do want to show everybody because I pulled this card the other day on my birthday. That's Tom Bombadil, everybody who's never
Oh,
read the book.
Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So if you haven't read the books quickly, right after in the movie, when the four hobbits get out of, like, when they cross that river, um, when they're being chased
The
by,
movie doesn't have Tom Bombadil, right?
yeah, no, it doesn't. That's why I
At
was trying to
all.
explain like where it
They
happens. Yeah. So it's
completely,
basically like after the hobbits leave the Shire, they in the book they go into these woods and they get lost. Long story, and this guy comes along and saves them. His name is Tom Bombadil, and he's like this magical guy, but he can only really stay in this giant forest.
and
And
like
in the forest,
nobody knows like who he is, where he came from, or anything.
he's the oldest thing. And it's funny because I think people say that, I think what happened was Tolkien wrote a children's book with Tom Bombadil first. That's like one of the first things he did, or a story or something. And
Okay.
then later so then in Lord of the Rings,
Incorporated.
he kind of incorporated it. So it's just this whole side story. And it's really interesting, but he's cool because he's always singing. And it's like that positivity thing that we mentioned. He's always making his own luck in that way. And the forest, all the scary trees in the forest will obey him because they'll sing to him. And he never has any despair. And that's pretty much what he tells the hobbits. And he has them sing the song. So in the rest of he teaches them the song. So if they get in trouble throughout the rest of their journey, just in that forest. So this is all before they get to the Council of Rivendell and see Elrond, and everybody meets and they decide to do what to do with the ring. This is before that. This is even right before they meet Strider in that, should know the name of the town where that bar is or whatever. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot what it was too.
where Frodo disappears by mistake, the ring falls on his finger. Um, yeah. So anyway, that's a good card for that quote because
Yeah,
he just
it
kind of showed
is.
that he's been around the longest. Like he was the one that was like here first, they say.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm glad you said that because I did not remember that about Tom Bombadil, and I did not remember that like it's so relevant to this discussion that he's so positive and he taught them a song, the Two of Cups.
Yeah, yeah, that's um the thing about I was gonna say about Tom Bombadil also that I really like is they talk about giving him the ring when they're in that council in
Oh yeah,
Rivendell and
I
everyone's around. In the book,
forgot.
they're like, "Can't we give it to Tom Bombadil?" Like because even in the book, he puts the ring on and it has no effect on him.
Yes, I remember that.
I think I talked about this early on in Over Sharon, how when I was obsessed with Lord of the Rings, how it's like it has no effect on it because his belief or whatever. And I think it's because he was older,
Yes.
like his magic is older, and maybe he's so positive. It's like kind of like the law of one, where the negativity just flees away. He's
Yeah.
in this. in that particular Middle Earth world in the same way everyone else is. He's kind of in it, kind of like Gandalf is, because Gandalf is also not a man. He's like a
What
higher
is he?
spirit. He's a where's our chat? Where's our Lord of the Rings geeks? They have Ainur, but he's not a Ainur. They're like these gods, and he's one step below. He's like a demigod, but he is immortal, and he just comes to Middle Earth and takes that body to try to inspire men. Like he inspires courage in men. That's his job.
He's kind of like a bodhisattva.
And compassion is his biggest thing, because in the Silmarillion, his character, I think it's Alarin is the name of his character before he becomes, his
Oh,
spirit.
wow. I forgot about. Well, I haven't really read that one yet, so
I know, well, I have talked about it probably, but he spends like thousands of years learning compassion from the goddess of compassion or love or whatever it is. So that's why he's also so compassionate, which is so important, because then he talks Bilbo and Frodo into not killing Gollum, which
yes.
at the end of everything, spoiler alert, Gollum is the one who is responsible for the ring being destroyed. So,
Yeah, in a roundabout way.
and you got to do it till you're done. And maybe Gollum was just doing it till he was done,
He did. He did it till he was done.
such a great story about non-judgment and how, yeah, you could keep yourself safe, you could tie up Gollum if you want and stuff, but don't judge him, don't murder him because you think he's evil, right? Like when Frodo says to Gandalf, maybe we should kill him, and he's like, do you have the power to give life? Many have the power to take it, but do you have the power to give it? Huge lessons.
Yeah. Excuse me. I don't know. I'm
Really
so
quickly, the lesson also is not about murder per se. Yeah, of course it applies to murder, but it applies to everything in your life. You can even think of a judgment toward people in this context. It could be like, listen, do you, instead of can you give life, you could take it, but can you give it? It's like, well, you could judge people, but have you lived a mile in their shoe? Like, have you walked a mile in their shoe or whatever? So
exactly. It reminds me of that uh thing that people sometimes say about like you can take everybody in a room and they write their biggest problem and thing the most difficult thing they're facing right now on a piece of paper, fold it up, put it in a bucket, and then each person can pull out and read someone else's misery or whatever, and they'll always still want to choose their own over someone else's because you know your own stuff better, you know?
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I looked at the clock and it was 2:22 or 2:02 with 22 seconds. That's why I started laughing.
Yes.
You were saying that such truth right at that time. And it is huge because, and that's another thing we said yesterday with Dr. Rick or whatever it was, talking about other people. That's how the conversation got started. He's like, because he gave Elizabeth some kind of like, she was talking about work and he was telling her some things. And he's like, and she's like, wow, you're so right. And he's like, it's just easier to see other people's problems. He's like, and I go, yeah. And I go, there's the mirror. I'm like, that's the real challenge, right? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so we are so focused. And I think it is because the way we're raised. And this is something we talk about a lot, but we see the universe from this position as, how can I get ahead? How can I have the best day? How can everything I want happen today? What can I do? And then the second it doesn't, I'm just okay. So I said we see, but some people at sometimes see the universe this way, some more than others, right? Right. I'll just say it that way. I don't want to jinx us or whatever, and I know I was like this, and I still can be like this a lot. I'll want something to happen, then when it doesn't, and that's what we were talking about in the beginning with traffic and all this stuff. It's more about, well, why did this happen? What can I learn? Maybe I'm supposed to arrive at this time, not when I wanted to. And it really all comes down to your plan versus God's plan. And Elizabeth and I were talking about this yesterday because Dr. Rick, he gave some pretty good advice. He's like, oh, try to come up with a goal and see yourself doing it and all this. And she was like, yeah. And it didn't really resonate with me as much. I get what he's saying. But on the way home, I was telling Elizabeth, I'm like, I feel like Bugs Bunny when the artist was messing with him in those episodes and he would draw things. And then at that one point he got, it was just all blank white, like the background ran out. And that's what I said. I feel like it's just a blank slate and I'm not quite sure exactly what's going to be next or what I'm going to paint. And she's like, I feel, she said she feels the same way. So that's another thing about advice. It's not always just because it worked for you doesn't mean it's going to work for somebody else. But that whole thing of a blank slate, that's kind of I'm now the I'm trying to master not picturing a negative future and not like it's not like I sit around and just picture this negative future, but in every moment because sometimes like tonight I'm going to DJ a wedding. Shout out to Giuseppe out in the chat. If he's still listening, I'm sure he is. Cosmic Lichens. I'm going to be working with him today, and I could have all these pictures. I'm actually working with Dwayne. Shout out to Dwayne, which is something I don't do that much anymore. Normally, I just go do my own, but I'm going to be working with him. I'm like going to be his DJ, and he's going to MC, which is a lot of fun. So I could be sitting here, worried about like I'm going to mess something up or something's going to go wrong or all these scenarios of things. Or I could try to picture the things I want to happen. Or I could just sit here in the present moment and say that everything that's going to happen is going to be for my best and highest good. Brandon's going to have a great time tonight. Everyone's going to have a good time. It's going to be so much fun. And whatever happens, we'll deal with it. We'll figure it out. We'll move through it. Tomorrow's going to come no matter what. And we're going to be here tomorrow. And there'll always be a new set of challenges. And I think that middle one is the one I want to lean toward more. Instead of trying to manifest exactly what I want, I'm just going to start working toward it. Like comedy, I went last Thursday, I went and did an open mic. I was so excited about it. And it didn't go like if you watched my set, you'd be like, oh, this guy, you'd be like, I didn't go that well. Like I even played it for Elizabeth and like it was so funny because I was talking about doing comedy and like all these possibilities. And she's like, oh, that's great. She's like, but that set wasn't really. I'm like, no, I get it. I was like, no, I understand. I'm like, open mics are like a gym. Sometimes you just go there to work out and you're just, ideas. But I had a great time and I was yelling. I was pretending that I was Jesus and I was like yelling at everyone not to follow me. I'm like, no, when I leave here, there's going to be 12 people outside and you're going to follow me. I opened up with a quote from the Tao, like those who know don't talk, those who talk don't know. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. I'm like, stop following me. It was some people were laughing once they saw where I was going. And then I did some other jokes after and I got some laughs, but uh I didn't have an idea that I wanted to go there and kill it and have everyone laugh and high five me when I got done. I just went toward it and did it. And I had this idea in my head and I wanted to get it out. And now I'm so excited. Like I'm shaking. I want to go to an open mic so bad, but I have to work tonight. And this week was just, a short week and it was crazy. So, but it got me motivated. It going to that open mic and doing what I wanted to do. I got out of it what I needed, which was the motivation to keep doing it. So anyway, yeah, that's why I'm gonna try going forward with this attitude of let's just see what happens. I'm gonna work toward what I want. I want to do comedy. I want to do these things. I want to whatever it is. And I'll just start working toward it instead of trying to picture myself as like a famous comedian or somebody who's I mean there's so many comedians that people don't know they're not famous but they could still make a really good living. So trying to picture myself as that because I don't know what it could be. Who knows? It could be a mixture of all these things. It could be a one-man show. I could be pulling tarot cards for people. Like we don't know what the future is. And I feel like when I sit there and try to picture a future, I feel like I'm boxing myself into it, right? And I'm
Oh
cutting
yeah,
possibilities that
absolutely.
I didn't
You're
even know because it's all about what you don't know. Like you don't know what you don't know. But go ahead, Sharon.
No, I was just gonna say it's just like writing that story and like instead of just letting God bring you the best or what you need, like
Yeah.
like the best outcome for everybody and exactly what you need.
And the funny thing about that open mic is there's a couple of comedians there that I've known. Most of the people I didn't know though, because I hadn't been doing it in a while. And when I got off stage, the ones that I haven't seen that I knew they were just like high. They were the ones that were high fiving me, like, yeah, good, like because they get it. They're like, you're just doing it. It doesn't matter. No one open mic matters, like so yeah, and it's just fun. I've been trying to work on different characters and voices and recording them too, so I could but I don't know. I think I'm gonna maybe have a little bit of material, but then I'm gonna try to go up there with just a blank mind. I was listening to Ram Dass Experiments in Truth now. I'm onto that one back again. And
Mm-hmm.
he talks about how he lectures. He goes up there and he just has like a when he goes up to lecture, he's like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to talk about. He's like, we have the brochure. He's like, I got to make sure I hit all those points. He goes, but I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. He's like, I just come up here and for every audience is different. And he's like, up here this whole time, I've just been having this mantra going in the back of my mind. He's like, he's like, just Ram, 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 or whatever. And I was thinking of something similar to that because you're more in the moment. And when I'm on stage, you have the voice in your head and it's you're working with that and stuff. But if you have, if you could get even away from that and just have a quiet in your head or whatever, I think you could react to situations more as they come up. And then you'll be out, or I'll be channeling it more, I guess. Because I've noticed in moments and stuff, I'm really funny. I can make people laugh when things happen. I'm quick, witty, and I just have to translate it to stage. So, but anyway, I'm excited about it. It's an exciting prospect to do what you love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Um,
like, oh, really quickly too, and like you said about the traffic thing, you don't care. And it's the same thing with me. I go on stage, I don't care. I just do my job. It's like the Tao says, do your work and you're done. Don't worry about the outcome of it, right? It's the same thing. Go ahead.
yeah. Um, I've been reading this book for a while now because um it's like kind of a dense type of it's a little bit dense reading sometimes, and it's especially more dense when it's talking about um things that I'm not quite clear on. Of course, I don't know that very many people are clear on these things anyway, but it's a book about theosophy. I don't even remember when I started reading it months ago, but like every once in a while I'll go back, open up Kindle and read that particular book. And I would say I think it's about a little less than 70% into the book. And as I was reading it earlier, I sent a screenshot to Brandon because it was like so, I feel like it was so relevant to the discussion we're having. Um, and welcome to everyone in the chat. I see Sarah G is in. Hello. But I wanted to read a little bit from it because it's just like it's really, really good. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna
I
clear
don't.
my throat. Hold on, let me mute.
La 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 la.
I think that's better. And I'm gonna read from I don't even know where it's at, but it's somewhere in the book. So it says, therefore, he who wishes to reform the world must first of all reform himself. That reminds me of know thyself, right? He must learn to give up altogether the attitude of insisting upon rights and must devote himself utterly to the most earnest performance of his duties. And you were just saying that, just do your duty, do your thing. He must learn to regard every connection with his fellow man as an opportunity to help that fellow man or in some way to do him good. One who study right, that was one who studies these subjects intelligently cannot but realize the tremendous power of thought and the necessity for its efficient control. All action springs from thought, for even when it is done, as we say, without thought, it is the instinctive expression of the thoughts, desires, and feelings which the man has allowed to grow luxuriantly within himself in earlier days. The wise man, therefore, will watch his thought with the greatest of care, for in it he possesses a powerful instrument, for the right use of which he is responsible. It is his duty to govern his thought, lest it should be allowed to run riot and to do evil to himself and to others. It is his duty also to develop his thought power, because by means of it, a vast amount of actual and active good can be done. Thus controlling his thought and his action, thus eliminating from himself all evil and unfolding in himself all good qualities. The man presently raises himself far above the level of his fellows. And that's not saying it like in an arrogant way. It's just that lots of people don't follow this route. So,
Yeah.
and stands out conspicuously among them as one who was working on the side of good as against evil, of evolution as against stagnation. That's just a part of this book called A Textbook of Theosophy by C.W. Leadbeater. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but
I mean
it
that
can,
go ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to quickly say it can be freely found online if you want to read it.
The amazing or oh, that's amazing. You get all these books for free now, but I was gonna say about that, it's such great wisdom, but you'll have people talk about how theosophy is evil, and
Yes,
it's like, well, is that statement evil though? It could be,
exactly.
sure, you could take it and like translate it into an evil thing, like the Tiki Olam thing, where we got to make the world better, but we're gonna work on ourselves first, and then work. The work isn't. I don't know, but I think that's the step that they skip is the self work. With this whole Tiki Olam, make the world better. But the theosophy at its core, what I've heard of it, it's really all about just self knowledge. Now, of course, some people can take these ideas because they are so powerful. These ideas are so powerful. If you have people get to a point where they could become a master of themselves, even just a little bit, and but say they don't get the full picture for somehow, you could start this amazing cult and you could get people to follow you. It's just the same thing with Christianity, this beautiful message, and it gets people, they feel it in their heart. So I don't know about any particular theosophists, if they were evil or bad or anything they did, but I could say that what Sharon just read is amazing. So
Hmm.
again, it's that whole, you got to pick and choose what you take and how it applies to you.
Yeah. There was something I just was about to say because you reminded me of another video or something that I saw on Instagram. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was about the difference between like religions and spirituality or religion and spirituality. I don't know if I sent that to you. Did I send it to you?
I think so. It sounds familiar.
It was some dude talking about, I mean, he was talking about it from a perspective of being African because he was African. But he was saying that the religions of today are just they're like man-made stuff. It's like stuff that someone has put together as like, and I'm not quoting him or anything, but I'm speaking it from my perspective because when I saw this, I was like, yeah, exactly. Like that's why I don't ever say I'm associated with any religion because that automatically puts you in a box. So anyway, he was talking about how actually I don't remember exactly what he said. So I'll just say from my perspective. From my perspective, like being spiritual is not about um like having dogmas or rules or creeds or like, oh, this is the list of things I need to do because so and so says, this religious entity or group says that this is what needs to be done. But I think it's about being open minded to the possibilities of like all religions kind of came from these basic tenets, and some of them we talk about a lot on the show, but the main one is I think is the golden rule basically. um but yeah, I don't remember what I was trying to say. That video was just, it just reminded, what you said reminded me of like the difference between religions versus someone being spiritual.
Yeah, it's like that left hand or right hand path thing. But again, there's doesn't mean that one's better than the other, or you can't rely on, or it doesn't mean you just have to pick one, right? Like, because there's so many things in the Christian faith that are great Bible quotes and verses and prayers, like the
Right.
Saint Francis and
We
all
use
that
them all.
stuff.
I use them all the time because I know it best because I grew up with it.
Exactly. And who's to say when what this religion we call Christianity, who's to say when it actually really did go bad? They'll say like, oh, it was the Romans and Constantine and all this stuff. But I don't know. I mean, you look at people like Saint Francis, for example, Thomas Aquinas, all these wonderful writings that they had.
Philosophies
Yeah.
and things. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of like, well, maybe it was there the whole time, and maybe there were just some people that were subverting it, or maybe the subversion is something new, and all the history we ever told was a lie. Who knows? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just saying that so say there's no reason to demonize it
Right. Right.
because it did, and I said this before, but organized religion is like a seed for all this knowledge, and it gets planted in everybody, and it doesn't mean everyone that encounters it like it was planted in you and me, but for us it sprouted into something different. For a lot of people it did, but some people it's just that seed, and it hasn't sprouted yet. So I'm very thankful because when I came across my more of a spiritual awakening, I guess you can say, and I got to the point where I can read the Bible and get stuff out of it, I didn't even have to go read the Bible because I already had, like you already had so many Bible verses memorized, and now they just mean something new to you. It's like a whole new set of knowledge you didn't even know that you had. It's
Yeah.
great. So I'm thankful for it.
Yes, absolutely. So am I. Like you mentioned, Saint Francis of Assisi or whatever. I don't really know that much about him, but um, like some people might be like, "Oh, I can't believe he's been made a saint because some of the stuff he says is like way too new agey or whatever." And it's like, well, he said it and he was made a saint and like isn't that indicating like that there was some truth there? And like maybe people won't tell you like all those nuances of the things that he said maybe that seem to be more like new agey, right? Or all those like details, but maybe whoever made him a saint will only tell you like the super the superficial stuff, on top or
Yeah, his
whatever.
message he had a mess. I'm sure St. Francis had a message, just like a lot of these philosophers and these saints, and it just got subverted by the church. They're like, oh, yeah, St. Francis, he's our boy, especially now that he's dead. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to make him our hero. You guys all loved him. Great. You can love us too. I don't know specifically his story, though,
Me either.
what happened, but I am going to bring up the prayer for St. Francis because this prayer is like, I used to meditate, say this prayer to myself. While often attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, the peace prayer wasn't written by the saint. However, it remains a popular. Okay, well, I guess it wasn't his prayer.
That's funny.
Who knows? But anyway, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there's hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, and then the way I would do it is I would just keep going, let me sow. But I guess you could go where there's injury, let me sow pardon. Where there's doubt, let me sow faith. Where there's despair, let me sow hope. Where there's darkness, let me sow light. Where there is sadness, let me sow joy. O divine master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. I love
Mm,
this line. I mean, this line right here,
mm.
you could just take that line out. That's all you need, right? O, o divine master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console. It's basically saying, God, I don't want to be a victim. Like I want to be the
Yeah.
helps people. I don't want to be the victim. And then also to be understood as to understand. So, O divine master, grant that I may not so much seek to be understood as to understand, you know, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive,
Mm,
it's in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life.
hmm.
Like,
That's
huge,
it
right?
reminds me. It reminds me of something I forgot to mention because we haven't. I haven't told you. I don't think I told you. Um, so the day that we arrived here, my sister picked us up from the airport, and everything was cool. She picked us up, and we're on our way home. Right. Of course, it's around 5 o'clock, and it's pretty hot. We're on the freeway. We're probably like 10 minutes from my house, 15 minutes from my house. And her Honda van starts to stall. And she's like, oh my God, what happened? And I'm in the passenger seat. And like, I put my hand on her and I'm just like, it's okay. It's okay. Like, let's like calm down. Like, it's going to be okay. And she's like practically freaking out. And her car eventually slows down pretty much like she pushes on the gas pedal, but nothing's happening. So we had to pull on to the side of the highway and, get out of the car and, make some phone calls. But, at first she was kind of freaking out, but I was like trying to calm her down so that, because we need to be calm when we're thinking of like, okay, what do we do next? Not panicking. So when it said to console versus being consoled, I it made me think of that because I was like, yeah, it's okay. Let's just, kind of like let's just breathe. Everything's gonna be okay. And everything was okay. We did stand in some heat for a little bit. I think it was probably 111 or 112 outside degrees Fahrenheit. A dry heat though, and we found a tree to stand under for a little bit, which really helps to be honest.
I love
And
trees, by the way. Amazing. They're so
yeah,
great.
yes, we love trees around here too because when we're looking for parking in the summer, we want to park under a tree.
I always park under trees if I can
Even
help
if
it.
it
Yeah,
even if birds poop on your car,
it's
it's
worth it.
better to have the shade.
Just reminds you to wash your car more. That's all.
Yeah, it does. It does. So we ended up I called a couple people who live nearby, but I ended up just calling my family, and one of my sisters was nearby with her husband and daughter. They came, picked me and Cody up, and took us home. Their daughter stayed with my sister and waited for a tow truck. And then their other daughter came with their bigger car so that she could take our luggage from the van because we had brought some extra luggage. So um it probably wouldn't have fit in the car that my sister and her husband picked us up in. So and yeah, everything and that all within I think within half an hour of it happening is when we got picked up. And then maybe 15-20 minutes after that, the tow truck came and picked up my sister.
That
Or
was
at least
Saturday.
that was Saturday.
That's so crazy. Because Saturday, when I went to leave for work, Elizabeth was gonna go get some cat food or something as I was leaving, and for some reason her truck was just dead. And she ended up calling AAA. They had to like replace the battery, but we don't know if we left something on, but it was weird because her radio was acting up the day before. It was acting really weird. Her phone wouldn't connect, and I think it probably had something to do with it. It was probably the battery on its way out or whatever.
Yeah,
And it happened Saturday. It's so crazy.
that's crazy.
Synchronicities.
And yeah, and it was just another kind of like nod to like just everything's going to work out. Everything works out for the best and for good, and everything's okay. Just an opportunity to be grateful.
Do you remember that synchronicity we had when we both were supposed to give somebody a ride to the airport and then they both canceled on us?
Yes.
So we decided not to record because we both had to give somebody a ride to the airport and then they both canceled. That was so crazy.
Yeah. Did we end up recording?
I think we ended up switching when we were going to record because of it, and we ended up going live or something happened. It was significant because of that, and we were like, "Wow, what a synchronicity!" So
Yeah.
maybe we did
Yeah.
record at a certain time or something. Yeah, it was definitely one of those things where we were like, "Oh yeah, it's a good thing we didn't record because of who knows what can happen." But yeah, just synchronicities abound.
Yeah. Summer station. I thought it said station. Summer station says an opportunity to be grateful.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Life is just an opportunity to be grateful, and I think that
I love that.
start to put your attention toward what you're grateful for, you just get more of it. I feel like it's kind of what happens. And sometimes it's ugly. Sometimes it's an ugly situation. But I think that,
It appears ugly, right?
yeah, that's what it is. Look at what, so I was doing this before. I want to show you. I might do it with a Halloween costume. So I braided my hair, right? And I weaved it into my goatee. So
Oh
it kind
my
of looks like I
God.
have a really long goatee. Oh, you can't really see it now, but if I
I
do it a
can
certain
kind of see.
way, in real life, it looks like I have this super long goatee. Sorry, I'm very easily distracted. So I think I'm going to show up like that, and then the braids here. See the braid, and so it just
Gotcha.
hides in my beard. So if I put my hair down, well, kind of looks like I have whatever. Anyway, I got a text yesterday from the office, the DJ office, and they're like, "Your wedding in sometime at the end of October." It's like a Saturday, and it's not Halloween itself, but they're having a costume party. They want to know if you want to dress up, and I was like, hmm. And then they
Ooh.
sent this list of rules from the venue about the costumes. Listen to this; it's so funny.
What are you going to be, Jesus?
Yeah, I guess I could be. I did reply though. I'll read you my reply, but I want to read this list of oh, here it is. Our venue has requested that costumes avoid masks, liquids, weapons, smoke, or glitter specifically. Basically anything that could be dangerous or cause a mess, damage to the venue space. So then I put brand off the gray in a question mark. And the lady from the office was like, she didn't see it till later. She's like,
Oh,
I'm
that too.
but yes, do. She's like, do that.
Yes.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I already have
The hat,
so I just need I'll
a
try to find,
robe.
yeah, a robe, but I think I'm gonna use this as an excuse to get a nice wool one or something from Etsy or whatever, because then I could also double and use it as a garment. And then I said to Elizabeth, I'm like, oh, I'm like, if this is the case, I'm like, you should dress up. And then on actual Halloween, me and you could go somewhere and just walk around dressed up like as Gandalf. And she wants to be like a witch. I'm like, that'd be hilarious. Like, oh, what's it in a witch?
Yeah, that works. It'd work.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
That's 11:33.
23303.
Nice.
Yeah, it's but I guess to bring it, oh, we didn't even really talk about the card that I pulled too. So I pulled the Two of Cups, and in this setting for this podcast, I will say that the Two of Cups can mean that you have like a choice, right? On one hand, you have these two
Absolutely,
cups,
too.
and you could choose the empty one or the full one. It's up to you, right? Or maybe they're
Oh,
both
that's okay.
filled halfway, and you got to decide if they're half empty or half full. But anyway, I feel like you could choose either of the cups at a certain stage you're at, and specifically what we're talking about when you choose to be grateful or you choose to feel like a victim. And it's not like a conscious choice all the time, and that's where people I think get tripped up, because when you have these issues in your shadow, we'll say stuff that you maybe haven't worked on or addressed, I feel like when something happens, you automatically just react to it. You have this reaction, and it's like you evacuate your cockpit, this whole thing we talk about, and something else comes in and moves for you, right? And you're like, why did I even do it? Like I was merging yesterday, after I was behind that person I was talking about forever, or it wasn't all real, it was like a mile, but still, I was like, come on, we're heading on the highway. So as we're merging, he's still going slow. So I just cut over and then I went to get into the middle lane, like from the merging lane to the slow lane to the into the middle lane because there's no cars. And I guess one of the cars in the fast lane, as I was getting into the middle that was behind me, wanted to move over. So he's like beeping at me. So I was like, dude, and he like sped up next to me and I just looked at him and he looked over. I just had a tank top in my hair and he was like yelling something, but I realized he was looking down, like he wasn't looking at me. He was like, he just, but I was in that situation. I felt myself and I was like, whoa, what do. So I just smiled at the guy. I was like, all right, I'm not gonna like react or freak out. Like, all right, dude, come on. Obviously, it wasn't that bad. You know what I mean? Like, so, um,
Um,
but that's what it is. That's those situations. And that's what I was gonna say. So as you do this self work, then you have this ability to make a decision. You start to notice your own behavior, and you start to get that like couple seconds or even milliseconds before you react, or you actually do have a decision. And that I've noticed anyway, this is how this happens to me. So people, I think, are going about it all wrong when they try to stop a certain behavior while it's happening, or just simply trying to abstain from that behavior. Ram Dass talks about all this. It's like the do it till you're done thing. He's like, it'll probably come out somewhere else, if you try to repress a certain behavior. And again, we're not saying that you should just, well, do whatever you want, right? But this doesn't give you a license to just go out and do your bad behavior without any consequences like that. That's not what we're prescribing for people. We're saying if you are going to engage in this behavior, try to start to do it consciously and watch yourself and do it. And whatever kind of practice works for you to try to stay more present, because I feel when you're more present, that's when you can stop that automatic reaction, and then you could just react in the way that you want to, that works best for you.
yeah, so what you just talked about with the reacting, so I've been watching episodes of that show. It's a cartoon called Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't know if you've ever seen it or know much
I
about it.
know it. I've probably seen a few episodes of it like years ago when it was on, I think it was on Adult Swim or something, one of those networks.
Okay.
But
It was on Nickelodeon,
oh,
I guess, at
Nickelodeon.
some
Okay.
point too.
All right.
Um,
I am
I
familiar though.
I
Well,
never really knew anything about it, but one time years ago, well, maybe not years, but like maybe a couple 1 2 years ago on Instagram, I saw a clip of it, on Instagram where this master is teaching the young avatar about the chakras
mm,
and like like the reason for them being blocked, like being blocked by guilt or by shame or by whatever, each one of those chakras
so
has a,
good.
yeah. So I wrote those notes down because I was like, man, this is really good. And I was like, man, I need to find a way to get a hold of the show and watch it. So I've been watching it. I mean, I started a while ago, but I don't see them all the time. But lately I've been watching a little bit more regularly. And the last one that I saw, interestingly enough, has this is why it reminded me of what you just said. The He's just a little boy. He's like, I don't know, he's probably like 11 years old, however old he is. And he's he's been told he has to learn all the four elements of bending. So earth, air, water, fire, because the fire lord is like he's taking over the realm and trying to take over and like kill every other race or every other bending race or whatever, so that there are only firebenders in the world or something, who knows. Anyway, but the avatar's been told by his
Sounds like a
former,
fire sign, right? I'm sorry, I couldn't help it.
that's fine.
I mean, like an unhealthy fire sign behavior.
Is
Sorry.
Aries a fire? That's funny. um so I'm telling a lot of the story. Sorry.
And I also live with a fire sign, a Leo, which I love her very much. But
Yeah, and I'm a Leo rising, so
yeah, so you
you
get it.
know,
You know.
I'm partially fire. So anyway, the in the last episode, one of the former or one of his like old friends or masters or whatever told him that the only way he's going to learn the next bending, the earth bending, is he has to find someone who it was something like this, don't quote me, but it was like someone who listens and waits before they act, or before they react. So
Wow.
what you said just now totally reminded me of that. Like, stop, drop, and roll. I'm just kidding. But stop and evaluate, listen, wait, and then decide, don't react, but what is it? Respond.
Respond. Yeah, I couldn't think of it either. That's all
Yeah,
when I was
yeah.
saying react. Yeah, I couldn't think of. It reminds me of stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Oh, oh, that's a Rough Riders road. Boom, boom, boom. It's a Rough Rider anthem, DMX. Anyway, it's so true though. You get that 1 second of time before you react, and it's really everything. And I think that's what meditation is all about.
Mhm.
But there are other ways to do it, and there's this other thing because you were talking about TV shows. We've been watching Dexter. Are you familiar with that show?
I think I remember that.
So he's a serial killer that kills other mass
Murderers.
murderers or whatever, evil
Yeah.
people, right? He's got this code. And let me tell you something. Wow, they talk about the shadow, and it's like anything else, I guess. You could watch this show and you could say, oh, it's all just violence and gore and gross, and it's showtime. So there's like sometimes they show like nakedness and stuff. But you could also look at just the behavior of it because they're not telling you, right? That there's no narrator. I mean, what's his name? Dexter narrates the series, which is pretty cool. It's a different idea for a show, right? You see something like that. But there's nobody telling you, oh, he's working through this. This is his shadow, They kind of talk about it a little bit, but it shows this thing because not to give anything away about Dexter or anyone, but he's a serial killer who kills other serial killers. And it's because his mom was murdered in front of him when he was a baby in the shipping container. She was like chopped up by a chainsaw, right? So he
Gross.
represses all this thing. So he's afraid to feel anything. So he can't feel anything. And there's a couple scenes where he's younger and he's like leaning over the side of this building where he's almost falling and he could feel he's like touching his hurt. And his dad grabs him. He's like, what are you doing? You're trying to kill yourself? He's like, no, I don't want to die. He's like, I just want to feel alive. Adrenaline addiction, anybody?
Right.
And there's certain situations where he's almost getting caught and he's close and he's like, I feel more alive now than ever. Right. It's like this adrenaline thing. And then as he's in a relationship and he starts to work through these things, you could see it come out like he is having problems killing people and all this stuff. It's because his heart is starting to open. In my opinion, we're like in
Oh,
season two or
wow.
whatever, but it's crazy how this stuff is really everywhere, and they'll
Yeah.
put it in the context of the serial killer. So you don't, so it's hidden, I guess you could say. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm not even mad that it's hidden. And that's the second thing I was going to talk about and we might have talked about this in the last episode, but I'm really coming to this conclusion that any kind of advice for anybody is just not a good idea. That's so funny that the elves say it in Lord of the Rings. The first
Right.
time that Frodo meets an elf when he's leaving the Shire. All these elves that are going back out west, and the one elf is like, "Listen, we elves learn to not give advice anymore." He's like, "But I could tell you,
Dude.
right? Because even if you tell somebody to meditate or whatever it is, or if you tell them about this self work stuff or whatever it is, they could take a part of it and maybe they could gain some kind of city or a power because of it, and then they get lost in that power um, and they're not having the same experience you are. And what I think people like us, what we forget and what we don't realize is that we've had to go through all the things that we've gone through to see the world the way that we do. And when you
Exactly.
try to open it up to people directly, it's not going to work. What does work? Parables. That's one thing, right? Jesus told us it's the
Mhm.
stories that work. So anytime I try to talk to people about these kind of things, I try to do it in a parable ish way. I guess freaking out at the chiropractor talking, well, I wasn't freaking out, but talking about like the voice in your head. But still, I wasn't giving advice. It's the
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, but yeah, I
Yeah.
really, the Tao says it too. Those who know don't talk. Those who talk don't know. Well, what do? They do things. They're not talking
They
about it.
don't
They're
talk
living
right.
it. Their life is the
Right.
example to the world.
Like my mom used to say, don't preach me a message, live me a message.
Yes, that's
But
huge.
I mean, she probably still would say it. So, but what you're talking about giving people advice, I've been noticing over the years that I don't like to do that. And then what I try to do is I try to tailor it. If I say anything, I tailor it to what like they're going through. Like, well, what do you think you should do type of thing? Like, what are your options? What are you leaning toward? Because it's like I can't tell you what to do. If you want me to, I will, but you're like, it's funny because sometimes Cody will be like, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Because he's constantly like, I don't know if he's talking to himself or like checking, just like asking himself what he should do, but he says it in front of me and I'm just like, okay, do it then. And then he's like, no, but XYZ. And I'm like, well, then don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's the challenge. And I'm so glad I started listening to Experiments in Truth again by Ram Dass because I listened to the one about the Bhagavad Gita so many times over, and I don't know if I went to listen to maybe Be Here Now or what. It just wasn't resonating at the time, but I listened to Experiments in Truth, and it's dead on to all this stuff
Ex-
where,
Experiments in Truth was good too. I really like that one.
and it's a lot more basic. I think people who are beginning and starting out could listen to Experiments in Truth because they don't really talk about the Bhagavad Gita and all this stuff. Because I think,
Well, what's funny about that, if I may interject,
yeah,
is
yeah,
so I first started with love, service, and devotion, right? Into ultimate surrender because you had told me about it. So when I was listening to that, I was all in. But the funny part was like, I didn't even notice that he was very rarely talking about the Bhagavad Gita. And then even at the end in the conclusion, I noticed this like the second time around that I listened to it. He says, now, I know that I didn't really talk a lot about the Bhagavad Gita when I was going through this, but there's a reason for that and blah 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 XYZ. So that's funny because like he really doesn't talk about the Bhagavad Gita that much. Now, when I was listening to Love, Service, and Devotion book or lectures, I started to try to listen to Experiments in Truth. And the funny part was I really couldn't like, I couldn't listen to it. It was so weird. I was just like, I would like rewind, because I'm like, oh, I wasn't listening. Rewind, do it again. And I was just like, you know what, forget it. I'm just,
yeah.
one day I'll listen to this and it'll click, whatever. And that's exactly what happened. Like when I needed to hear Experiments in Truth is when I heard it. Because then when I did, it was like, dude, whoa, yeah, like what you're saying right now, whoa. Like it was just all clicking and it was like timely and it was perfect timing. So it's just funny that way. Like even like telling somebody to read that first or the other one for it, it's whatever happens. It's whatever someone's led to do. Because for me, I couldn't get through Experiments in Truth first. Like for whatever reason, I had to go through Love, Service, Devotion first.
It's crazy how that it works out on what you're into with it. And then you go back and all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then before you just couldn't stick with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The reason I said the whole thing about it being a little more simple is
And it probably is, but
yeah, no, yeah.
it's
When I was
shorter for sure.
Yeah, it's shorter. It seems plus it's he talks more about his own awakening and like the stuff he's going through in India, which is really cool. But the
Yeah, I
stuck
liked
with
that.
me the most, or that's recently when I was listening to it, stuck with me is he says something like it, he talks about relationships, and he said how rare it is to be, and when he says relationships, he doesn't just mean like a, a man and a woman. He's talking about like friends, co-workers, any kind of relationship. He's like, if you are blessed enough to have a relationship with another person who's conscious and working on themselves, it's like one of the rarest things. And then he said that
Mm.
when you're in a love relationship or any relationship, it's up to the person who's the most conscious in that relationship to be the adult, basically. I forget exactly how he says it, but he's like, it's up to the person who's most conscious to take the responsibility and not be like, not blame it on the other person for not
Not
doing
be
stuff
the
or
victim.
not being aware enough. Yeah. Or like, oh, you're not awake enough. It's like, no, no, no. You work on yourself still in that relationship, and whatever the
Hmm.
other person does, as long as it's not abusive or whatever, right? Um, whatever they do, you just don't take it personally. And
Mm.
Elizabeth shared this thing with me, and it was this guy talking about how in a relationship, a man should be a safe space for a woman. A man should be, and again, every man and woman is different, but in most, we'll say relationships, right? Everyone's different, but I guess especially if the man is more conscious, I'll say my situation, not that I'm any better than Elizabeth or whatever, like I'm older and I just been doing it a little longer. That's all. But it's where was I going with that? Yeah, it's up to me. Oh yeah, to be a safe space for her to kind of react however she wants. And she's been having a really rough time these past few weeks at work. And I just, she's let out some stuff and she's like, do you still love me? Like, do you still? And I'm like, you could say whatever you have to say. Like, I'm here for that. I understand that as a woman and your personality type, also all these things about you, right? That I know about her. This behavior, it might seem crazy or whatever to other people, but it's only natural that you're acting this way because of these circumstances. Like, and I'm glad that you're letting it out, right? It's better that you're letting it out than then holding it in because that'd be a lot worse for you. But in that way, I've been, and again, it's not always perfect. Sometimes I'll snap at something or whatever. I'm very snappable, especially in the morning if I have to be. But I think that if I could just remember that, listen, it's up to me. And this goes for all the relationships I'm in. If I'm at work or whatever, and someone's giving me a hard time, or if I'm driving, and the relationship happens to be this is my co-driver on the road, like my co-road mate or whatever, some person, and they're pissing me off. I have to remember that I'm the conscious one here, and that might sound like stuck up or whatever or conceited, but and
No,
maybe
it's just responsibility. It's just you're
exactly
taking
right.
responsibility.
And it
Like,
really is more
okay,
self-love
I
too.
am an adult and I will be
Yes.
the adult in this situation, right? And I think the more adult, the more mature, the more conscious, the more aware person should always be the one with that responsibility. Because no matter who is around you or who you're with, those people may not be as aware. They may be younger than you, they may be less mature. So in all cases, no matter what, you should always be the mature adult and take the responsibility.
Yes. Especially I would like to say like especially for men, but I don't know everyone's situation. I just know in my situation, and I don't know if it's because maybe it's not because I'm a man, maybe it's because I'm an INTP, but I have, this ability to not let things bother me as much. In the past it probably wasn't as healthy because I would just like ignore things or whatever. Now I'm approaching it in a different way, but I try to move forward without fear. And because I have that stance on the world, it would be make a lot more sense for me to be the one that's creating a safe space, but sometimes it works both ways because
Right.
obviously there's sometimes when I'm
Who
freaking out about something and she's there, it's my little safe
whoever's
space
at
or whatever.
whoever is in the space of being the at the moment being the adult
at
in the
the moment.
situation,
Yeah,
just take responsibility and be there for somebody and just let them be and just yeah. Don't be a victim about it.
don't be a victim. I feel like that's what it all comes down to. I feel like I could like section my life off into two parts where the first part of my life was when I didn't know about victim narrative and consciousness and all that. And then afterwards, it's like after you learn about it, you're just like, fuck, there's nothing you can do now because you already know it and you know you're being a victim and you're like, damn it, I'm just being a victim. It is great though. It really is because it does just lead you to more gratitude. And speaking of gratitude, I want to just shout out to the chat, everybody. Again, once more, Summer Station. Dexter was such a good show. Mirroring, yes, a lot of mirroring going on. What's up, QSB?
I say station too, but it's not.
What's that?
It's summersation, not
Oh, I
station.
said
I
Summer
thought it
Station.
was
Did I say it too? Probably because you said it. I'm mirroring you, Sharon.
yeah.
Summer Station. This is your season. This is the Summer Station of Over Sharon.
Absolutely.
I think I was inspired to do that because I was wishing my dad a happy birthday, and then I sent him this text
Oh,
message, and he's 69 today. So I sent him a little 69, like a little
oh,
cancer thing,
Cancer?
and he's
Is
a
that the
cancer too, you know. So yeah, yeah.
well,
My dad
it's
was looking at numbers.
11:55 and 55 seconds.
Boom. Oh, she says like sensational. Oh yeah, no.
Oh, summersational.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You should make it summersational. Put a AL at the end. Owl. Little owl. Yeah, we're just being silly. But yeah, my dad. So speaking of numbers, my dad was born on 7/11/55.
Oh, nice. So that the 50 when you were saying that, I saw that 11:55 with 55 seconds.
Yep, 11/55.
Crazy.
Makes 7/11/55.
Well, earlier,
Yeah.
just to finish there was a something you mentioned about the two of cups that we were talking about. And
Joe, what's
there
up,
was,
Joe? Sorry, Sharon.
yo, Joe,
Just
welcome.
in time for we pulled the two of cups earlier and we just skipped right over because we were talking about our Tom
Well,
Dom
you talked
Bombadil part.
you talked about it a little bit,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah. Then we got to it. Yeah, I just meant for Joe because he probably missed the beginning.
yeah. But I was gonna say, like, you were pointing out how, okay, maybe one cup is full and the other one's empty, but no matter what is in that cup or at which level the cup is in, you can always be grateful for the cup. And you can, for example, if it's empty, you can just be grateful for new beginnings, because the cup isn't always going to be empty. It may be full at some point. It may be half full, you know? And so it's up to you to make that um, decision about if you're going to be grateful for what's in the cup and what's not in the cup, etc.
Or there could be the same thing in both cups, but you only get to choose one and you don't know
Yeah,
that. So it
dude.
doesn't matter what you choose, what you think you're choosing, you're still going to have this experience. Because if you're stuck, like we say all the time, you're stuck in this cycle of something happening and bang, it happens and it happens, right? Something pisses you off and you get triggered. So these things keep pissing you off. If you look at it in a different way. So even if you say, oh, I'm gonna, I'm trying to think of the silly one, like, I'm going to drive this way to work. No, I want to drive that way. So this is your choice. Which way is going to be better? Well, what if both ways you're going to encounter some guy that's going to really,
Annoy you,
he's
test you.
he's your guru for that moment. He's sneaking through and he's like, how are we going to trigger this person?
Is your teacher.
Yeah. So there really is in that way. There's no choice. It's kind of like that meme. It was like free will, but not really. Like free will's real, but not really. It's kind of like that.
Didn't Ram Dass say something about he forgot? You just said
Should
something.
do a Ram
Made me
Dass
think of
episode
him.
one time. I'll say this out because I had a thought maybe we could start doing it or I'll even do it, but taking some of just the quotes that Ram Dass uses in his thing and just read the quotes and talk, like have an episode where we just read the quotes and talk about them, something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
Or we can even
Yeah.
do shorts. You know, me and we could record for an hour and just read these, and then I could just cut them up and put them with the shorts, something like that. You know,
Oh yeah.
but
Um,
oh, and
oh,
one,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to because I saw Joe and stuff in there. I've been a hermit this past week or so on Telegram a bunch. So I just want to say hi to everyone. I'm still alive. I still love everybody. Elizabeth just
You're
had some
just an
time off.
INTP, that's all.
I'm an INTP. Elizabeth had four
That's
days
his
off.
excuse.
So we were going hard hanging out, and then I had to also work Saturday. But it was a fun. I had a really good time Saturday. More so many synchronicities, just insane stuff going on. And when it's really hot, I love it because people are just, it's like they're in a daze. It's kind of like a dream world, even though like inside the venue is air conditioning. You know, people just show up and they have this look on their face. They're just like, oh, and then they just drink a bunch. You know, it's great. So it always leads to a good time. But anyway,
Um,
yeah, shout out to
something
everybody.
you,
I'll be back.
yeah, something you said earlier about the two cups, you said they could have the same thing inside of each, right? It made me think of the Princess Bride
The two
and
cups.
the two poisoned cups, right? And the guy's like, I conditioned myself to taste this stuff and drink it without being affected by
Yeah,
it.
so basically be immune to it, right?
He's immune to the poison. So no, he knew that no matter which cup he picked, he was going to be fine. So if you can be immune to situations that would cause other people to go crazy or upset or whatever, then you know whichever cup you pick, you're going to be okay and everything's going to be okay. Right?
And to add to that, what did he do? He conditioned himself to be immune to the poison. He did self work so the poison wouldn't affect him anymore, right?
He did it.
Yeah, what
He
I
had
gotta watch that
to
movie
do
again.
that work. Yeah, it was a good one. But I mean, I didn't think of that until just now when you said that.
I didn't
And
either.
now, and as I talked about it, I was like, oh, snap. Yeah, makes sense.
And you know, it's like, well, did the people writing the show, did they purposely put it in there, or
Oh,
did it just come out? Did they just channel it? Whoever is writing that movie,
yeah.
because that's the way it works.
Inconceivable.
Huh?
It's inconceivable.
Yeah,
Ah,
unbelievable. I forgot about that. The Lisp guy.
yeah,
The
he was
movie.
annoying.
So yeah, I mean, you know, that's kind of how that's what this I think will is the theme of this summer. It's like, you know, how can when something goes wrong this summer, ask yourself, how can this be toward my greatest and best good? What can I learn from this? You know, what did this prevent from happening? You know, this thing that we see as bad, but what other worse things may have it have prevented? Like this guy might have made me late for work one day because he was like, you know, going slow or whatever. But if I was going my normal speed or a little faster, maybe I would have gotten to an accident, you know? You never know. So I feel like the theme of this summer, the summer of Over Sharon,
Summersational.
so it's summer sational. And you could just ask yourself, you know, what can I learn from this? How this terrible thing that just happened to me, how you know my refrigerator's not working. How is this a benefit? And Sharon already listed some benefits. Look, we already started for you guys. Now it's your turn, people. Do it or don't, whatever. I mean, just have a great
Yeah,
summer
we're not
or
giving
have a bad one,
advice.
whatever. Yeah.
We don't give advice.
This is just what we're going to be doing. This is our theme. It has been an interesting summer thus far, says Joe. Yeah. Always appreciate the two of you and your insights listening while driving. Oh, awesome, Sarah. Thank you. So there you go. Now you know if somebody pisses you off or cuts you off, you don't have to react.
Yeah.
Uh,
Michal asks, have we ever seen the show United States of Hera? No, I've never heard of it.
Tony said that tire went flat yesterday, and now I realized I didn't have a jack ready to go. Now I will. There you go. So that's good. You didn't, right? You walk outside and your tire's flat. Yeah, that's terrible. But guess what? It's better than, and you know this, I'm sure, Tony, but it's better than getting a flat while you're driving, having a blowout, because that's dangerous, right? At least you're home. You could figure it out. You can call AAA, or maybe you could plug it, or whatever your knowledge is, or you could pump it up until you get to the gas station or whatever. So you have a lot of options, and now you're ready to go next time it happens, right? Exactly. Later, Joe. Thanks for stopping in. Enjoy your dinner.
Yes.
Well done, bro. Be
Summer
safe.
says, I'm at the stage in
Oh,
life where I like to drink from all the cups.
yeah, yeah. That's really, I think, what it comes down to. And that was another message of this Ram Dass lecture series I've been listening to. He talks about this guy Bhagwan Das, who's like a 23-year-old guy. He's like 6'7", blonde hair from Laguna Beach,
Oh,
California.
the Bhagwan Das guy. I was going to mention him in Experiments in Truth.
Yep.
Yeah.
In every temple, this he's 23, but every temple he goes to in India, he's on a temple pilgrimage. And it doesn't matter if he goes to like a Buddhist temple or a Sikh temple or
Or a
a
Theravadan or
Hindi, or
whatever he
yeah,
calls it.
Theravadan Buddhism or whatever it is. He's got some kind of piece of clothing or trinket or necklace from each one, and they all greet him as a brother, and he greets them in the way that they want to be greeted. So he's not going to these places saying, "Hey, you got to make your for me." He's like, "No, I'm here to get into what you guys have." It reminds me, he's like the ultimate capybara, Bhagwan Das.
Yes.
He's like my spirit animal, 6'7",
Oh,
like
Bhagwan
that.
Das.
Yeah, I love it.
Oh, I mean, eh, not to bring this up to make it's one of those topics, right? When people that's how do I say it? It's one of those topics right now. And there are people out there who want to be called by a certain pronoun or whatever, right? And so I know it sounds like you're it sounds like I'm saying that you should do it because that's what they want or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I get it.
What
It's
would
so
Jesus
awkward
do, right?
sometimes. Yeah, yeah, I get it because it's like awkward sometimes, but
That's
like,
a hard one. That's a good example.
right?
I like that. It
Right?
really, because you
It's a
on
hard,
one hand, you're like, do I want to validate this nonsense or whatever, how a person can feel
yeah.
inside. And then on the other hand, you're like, but yeah, I still want to be like Jesus, and I want to accept this person for who they are. And that's another thing Ram Dass said. He's like, when you don't accept somebody, whatever it is, or even their idea, when you don't accept them, even if it's internally, instinctually they pick up on it and they close to
Mm-hmm.
you. But if you accept it, and then they'll open to you. So
Right.
I mean, there's probably a way. And another thing that this is like turning into a Ram Dass episode.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
another thing he says is you don't always have to say anything. He's like, if you always
Yeah.
want to tell the truth, you just keep your mouth shut until you have to say
Right.
something. And there's other
Right.
ways to dress and
And
talk to people like that. Just call them by their name, you know?
yeah, exactly. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier in the show where the video that Brandon was showing on Instagram. It's like don't say anything at all. Then like just, you know, keep your mouth shut as much as possible unless you have something nice. And it's like that old saying goes, that's like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, right?
I
Right?
I
That was
DJ'd
a
a gay
quote for a
wedding.
reason.
I DJ gay weddings. I did one a month and a half ago, and I was just super nice to the guys, just everything they wanted. I was like, let's do it, man. I was like, it's such a good mood. And those guys, they even tagged me on something on Instagram. They were so happy. And who am I to try to judge them or take away their happiness, dude? Whatever. People put guns in their mouth every day and kill themselves. If these guys had to find each other for love, who am I to judge that? Now, is that something I want to do? I love, that's not my path, but maybe because of this path, they have to live through something that they're going to go through, and it's going to work out
Teach them a
perfect.
lesson for next lifetime.
Yeah. And I understand the other side of that too. And I think the
Absolutely.
other side of it more, though, comes from people wanting to teach it to their children. And I would just say, make teaching your children your own responsibility, then, like, and of course
Yes.
I don't have kids, and I guess that would suck and it's hard. And there is an
Right.
argument to be made that they probably shouldn't be talking about things like anything like this in a school system. It's like, let's just learn
But
something.
right, but if that is in your realm, if that's encroaching in your realm, then you deal with it in your realm.
Yes, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you can't tell other people what to do, but you
Yeah,
can say,
that's
you know
that's
what?
much
I will
different,
not
right?
allow that. I will not allow that to encroach upon my family. And do whatever is necessary for you to do so that it doesn't encroach upon your family, but you can't tell other people what to do.
Approach it like Jesus did. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do.
Hmm.
Think about anything you yourself, whoever's listening to this, you yourself have done in the past, and you're like, oh, I can't believe I did that. What was I thinking? Well, same thing. You didn't know what you were doing. Forgive you. And people could say, oh, they knew they were doing wrong. They knew what they were doing. But I understand that you could know you're doing something wrong and still not know what you're doing. And what I mean by, I think what Jesus says, forgive them, they don't know what they do, is they're not looking at it the right way. They don't have the right
Perspective.
worldview
Yeah.
to understand what's going on here. They're just acting on the vibration that they're on. They're going along with this vibration, which everyone else is. They're going along with the crowd, right? It happens so often to people. They go along with the crowd. So, oh, hey, what's up? There's a kitty in here now. Oh, she's nice and cold. It must be really air conditioned down there. It's funny. It's actually not bad in here.
You
Um,
blazing? You hot?
no, it's not too bad. There's a fan here, so I just put it on exhaust fully for like an hour, and I opened the door down there, and because we keep it closed to make sure the other two cats don't get in here.
Mm.
And I just kept an eye on it, and all the cool air got sucked into here, so it was nice. All the hot air got sucked out the window, so it's not bad. But I mean, I'm
Oh,
sure it's
okay.
nicer in the AC downstairs. But anyway, um, yeah, that's my rant. What was I saying? What were we talking about?
Um, Bhagwan Das, and we
Oh
talked
yeah, yeah.
about
Oh, just
people
being
and just yeah, what would Jesus
yeah. So
do?
forgive
Yeah.
them for not they know not what they do. And but of course, what you said is right. If it's encroaching on you, yes, you sometimes you have to stand up for yourself and set boundaries. But what Sharon and I are talking about is all this stuff that goes on online and all like sharing memes and talking shit and all this crap. And oh, I understand that, but like some people that are doing that, they might not even have kids. They might live somewhere far away from that. They might not even have met a trans person in their entire life. They just are going along with the crowd of what everyone else is doing because they see something they don't like and they think is evil or bad. So they're fighting against it. So that's really what I'm speaking to, and in your own personal life, if you come across a person who identifies that way or whatever, you can always, it's another chance to ask yourself, why is this happening? Not like, why is this happening? But, why is this happening? I wonder what I can learn. How is this for my best and highest good kind of thing? And maybe you'll even make a friend. You never know. I mean, just because a person, it's like my friend Pat Oates, comedian Pat Oates, everybody. He's like, I don't care who you fuck. Like he would always say that. He's like, I don't care. He's like, I don't care. You don't got to tell me. That doesn't your sexual preference or whatever, it doesn't determine your character to me. Like, are you a cool person? Are you going to treat me how I want to be treated and not screw me over? All right, great. We can have an interaction, a business interaction or whatever it is, just a nice talk. And because I feel like if you accept them, they're probably not used to being accepted at all. So it's really you don't know what your acceptance is going to do to them, what positive effects it's going to have on them in the future.
Yeah.
So,
I go to a natural grocery store, and a lot of kind of people who tend toward things like that get hired there, right? But they're always so nice. They're so nice to me, and I don't have a problem with them. They're just people.
we have no idea what they went through, you know?
Yeah,
We have no
exactly.
idea what the alternative to that behavior is. Like if they say they repress that feeling, maybe it would be worse. Maybe they would go shoot people or something. I don't, it's hard to say. And that's
Yeah.
why you only should be worried about yourself, right? Division
Yep.
is rampant lately, yes. And I think it's just
Yeah.
I don't know if it's due to it or maybe just in the stars, people they know it's going to be like a divisive time. So, but it's funny that it's an election year, right? You know, it's an election year, and there's all this division, right? Of course.
It's it makes me think of how there really isn't, you know how like Aaron Abkey and a lot of these spiritual kind of teachers of some sort talk about these things, but like there is no separation. Like the law of one talks about there is no separation. Um, but I think these things that show the division and the separation are kind of highlighting, like accentuating this like quote division or whatever, so that maybe people can wake up to it, right? Because it probably has to get really bad before it gets good. And if we truly are in a Kali Yuga and we truly are in for a golden age in the near future, whenever that is, then things are going to look really divided for a bit before they look good.
100%, especially if you're on the other side of that, if you're on the quote unquote negative side. And that says, oh my God, I know how it feels. Years ago, I dressed up like a chick and I experienced what it felt like and everything that could be experienced. That sounds like a really good exercise in empathy because then you could understand because for years I've been a man for like 4 to 8 of them. So I have no idea what it's like to be a woman, but I never used to worry about that or think about it once a little bit, obviously, you know, you think about it, but I would never really make it the center of my focus or attention. I think that's what led a lot to my crazy behavior that I displayed when I was younger toward women. And now that I empathize with them and I realize, and that's really what goes through my mind, what used to go through my mind when I was thinking about these hookups, you know, like hooking up with girls, and then I stopped, or women, and I stopped, and then I would think about it again. And that's the road, the mental exercise I kept going down was, you know, this person's just going to end up hurt. I'm just going to hurt people, and I don't want to hurt people. So it was that led me to stop that behavior. I had to like look inside myself. It wasn't that I didn't just try one day to stop doing it. And oh, the reason I said all that was because now I like I said, I empathize a lot more with women, and it really is amazing and crazy the differences between men and women, and and just how it's kind of dealt with and perceived in the world. Because there is a lot of sexism. You know, like the leftists will be like, "Oh, it's so terrible for women," and the people on the right be like, "Oh, you're full of shit. It's great. You know that you're making all this up." But there's always truth, right, in every deception. So and I don't know because I'm not a woman, but I'm sure you can attest to this. I'm sure you've been treated differently because you're a woman in situations when you would have been fine. Whatever it was you were doing, it would have been fine. But someone's like, oh, this is a woman. We got to talk to her differently or whatever, treat her different.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I try to be mindful of that myself. And I also, especially now that I'm in a relationship, I'm like, oh, yeah, like women are just different creatures. I don't know. It's hard to explain. They're resilient in different ways than men are resilient.
You know what? That's interesting. You're pointing out that you know the whole treating people differently because they're you know man or woman or whatever, and it makes me think because anymore these days I see a lot of people who are kind of ambiguous and you can't tell. You're just like, uh, not sure, right? But could that be also a lesson in not treating them with the stereotypical treatment, but just treating them as a living being, as just they're another people. They're another people just like you.
Exactly. That's a really good point because you know, I'm saying what I was saying is like I want to see if, is it a woman then I should treat her like this? Is it a man then I should treat him like this? It's like no, just kind of treat people how you want to be treated, and it won't really
Yeah,
matter,
right.
you know, uh, or don't treat them how you don't want to be treated. It's probably better. Some good conversations going on there. Well, I think we should
Yeah.
probably wrap this up shortly because I must get in the shower and get ready for work soon. Gonna have an amazing night. I'm so excited. Feels so good to be back and live and to not have a topic. It was really nice too to just kind of get back into the swing of things.
And flow.
Yeah, shout out
It
to the
was good.
chat again. Thank you guys so much for hanging out and sharing your experiences. I mean, well, yeah, look at Summer Station. My youngest grandchild is trans. Even though we haven't spoken in too long, I still see my job as Nana is to love, not judge. Yeah, I mean,
That's right.
I, really because the judgment is just going to lead to further ostracization of that person, which is just going to lead
Mm-hmm.
them to feeling worse and maybe displaying
Exactly.
worse behavior or whatever it is. And if you accept them
Mm-hmm.
who they are, they probably, like I said, they're not used to being accepted. Because what I see going on with trans people or even people who are gay or however you want to say it, like, is people trying to champion them. You know, most people that I know, like I have friends that are gay and I even know trans people, like they don't want to be the spokesperson or the for the movement, you know, like they don't need all the support and people behind them. They just want to live their life and not be bothered. You know? But everything gets politicized and it gets subverted. It's the same thing, right? As we talked about with like religion or any of this, they all these ideas get subverted. So what's happening with these traumatized people, I mean, everyone's freaking traumatized, right? But the people who are traumatized and then uh whatever behavior displaying, like this behavior we're talking about, they're getting subverted by, you know, people that have political wants and desires or whatever, or that just want to cause division for their own gain. So they start this fight when we all have so much in common. You know, it really goes back to like my friend Pat says. He's like, I don't care who you sleep with. He's like, we're all just people. You know, we all eat. He's like, what else did you do? He's like, how much time did you spend today having sex? He's like, you did all these other things. He's like, it wasn't even that much. You probably maybe it wasn't even this week that you had sex. It's like, why did we have to talk about your orientation? You know, what kind of food do you like? You know, what kind of music do you listen to? So
Indeed.
indeed. 32121. That's three
All
three.
right.
Well, shout out to the chat again. Thank you guys. MS, I've met a lot of trans people. Some of them are awesome, some are nasty and drama, some are so sexual, and some funny, you know. Just like any kind of people. Exactly.
Yeah. They're just people.
We're just people. We're just trying to get rid of, you know, it's like Joe Dirt used to say, is this where you want to be when Jesus comes back? Is this where you want to be? You know, making fun of people because of whatever, you know, they're not
Yeah.
hurting you.
Exactly. Right.
And I feel like our message is more of a wholesome one because we're not telling you to give them special treatment, you know, because when you give
If you're
people,
gonna give, yes, yeah, it's like
it's worse. Yeah.
you gotta then treat everyone specially. Then
Yes.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
special treatment to every single person.
Exactly.
You know,
Awesome.
and then that way you're just treating everyone exceptionally.
Exactly.
Like our friend uh Jeremiah says, be excellent to, what does he say?
Party on
Be
and be
excellent
excellent.
to each other.
Yeah. Be excellent to each other. Exactly.
Yes.
There's no reason not to be. Well, everybody, morelawsmoreproblems.com is the website. If you'd like to support us, click on the Over Sharon tab. There's plenty of ways to support us. Or if you'd like to find us in podcast form or any of your Over Sharon needs, go there. But we always say the best way to support us. Oh, I didn't even get into this. Well, maybe we'll talk about this on a future episode. But the best way to support us is to subscribe, like the videos, share them around, hang out in the chat when we go live on Thursdays or when we're premiering something because I feel like the Over Sharon show is really there's not many of these shows. Like, so if you look at the entire internet, right? Maybe there's thousands, but there's not many shows that aren't trying to sell you anything. I saw this meme or whatever. I follow some crazy accounts on Instagram, and one of them is like super conspiratorial, and I don't always believe every, but one of the things they said that was cool was this thing called dead internet theory, and they proposed that since like 2016, 2017, the internet has been basically dead. It's just all advertising that you get. Everyone's trying to sell you something.
Everyone.
Yes. It's
And
South Park nailed it perfectly.
I hate that. I
And
freaking
that's what
hate
we're
her.
not doing here at the Over Sharon show. But again, if you like us and you want to support us and make us happier, or not make us happier, share some joy, and you have like extra currency, share the currency that you have. If it's your currency is to come hang out in the chat, hang out in the chat, share it, like, subscribe, whatever it is, because we're not selling you anything. We're just
Yeah.
sharing our own experiences as we work on ourselves with you, and hopefully you can get something out of it. That's really all.
Yeah. What you just said about sharing the currency that you have, right? That could be anything. It could be your attention to us, watching the show, coming on the live chat, chatting with us, right? I watched a Bashar that, and it was in a very similar tone to the topic we covered earlier this whole episode. Um, and he was telling this girl, um, all this stuff. What was I just talking about? The currency anyway.
That's crazy.
He was basically telling her like you're you're limiting the currency. You think that the only way that you can do what you love, which was for her was to travel. He's like, you think the only way you can do what you love is to have money. And that's the currency you're limiting. He's like, if your uh you opened up to that and you didn't limit yourself in your mind about I can only travel if I have money. If he's like, would you turn down a free trip around the world? And she's like, no. And he's like, exactly. So like, don't limit yourself to the currency of money. So to me, it's like open up to all possibilities. You don't know how it's going to come to you. You don't know how uh love and whatever, all the things that you love, you don't know how that's going to come to you. So just be open and don't in your mind be limited.
Yeah, totally. And don't underestimate the value of positive comments. Every time we get comments, we love them. So when you guys leave comments on our videos, it's amazing. It's great. We know people are resonating with it, and it just feels good. And like we said, we probably would do this if nobody was listening, but it makes it better that people are listening.
Yeah, it makes it more fun.
Way better. So thank you guys. Thank you. Big shout out to Sarah G, Summer Station, QSB was
Tony
in here earlier,
Coriolis,
Tony, Mihal, MS. Let's see.
Joe, who was in here earlier.
Joe. The other Joe
And
Giuseppe Joe's in here earlier.
yes, that's right.
Awesome. Thank you guys for hanging out. I think we
Yeah,
got
thank
everybody.
you.
And
Yeah.
everyone who was
Blue
listening,
Kachina, yeah.
Blue
And
Kachina, yeah,
Cody
and
for
Cody.
a minute.
Cody and Cody Codes. All right, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will be back Thursday with another earth-shattering best darn show on the internet. But until then, what do we say to the good people, Sharon?
That once you start over Sharon,
Then you totally stop being a Karen. And remember, everybody, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
we're not giving advice. We are simply sharing some tips on how to live a little more gratefully. Could it be?
Well said. All right, everybody, we'll see you later. Have a great weekend. Keep over Sharon.
Ciao.